Now we're switching speakers and we're bringing in someone who talks to spirits on the other side, and in particular, her husband. It's such an amazing story. And for those of you who are watching and who have been asking if you how to donate, you can certainly do this in the button, which I've posted a couple of times, and I'll post that again. You can go to my website. There's a donate button, and I'm so happy for any level of contribution. So, buy me a cup of coffee so I can buy Sean a cup of coffee in Maui someday.
I'm putting the links in there, by the way.
Oh, so, yay!
Yeah.
Yay.
So,
well, thank you. And so let's go ahead and introduce Pamela. And I'm going to spotlight your video and unmute you, Pamela Johnson. And I'm actually going to let Sean introduce you because I think one of the speakers is confused about time. So I'm going to go call her and he's going to introduce you.
Wow. All right. Thank you. Exciting. So this is Pamela Johnson. And what's really cool is that we live on the same islands. And she actually lives, I don't know, less than a mile from me, overlooks where I live. And we just met each other in the last, I don't know, month or two, but it seems like we have known each other forever. And it's so exciting to be introducing you today for Trisha's Summit. So why don't you tell us about you and your experience, starting with what happened in 1987?
All right. Oh gosh, I got to give you
well, just really quick version. Well, just really quickly, I had to get on and deal with a speaker who was on at the wrong time. But I would like to say that I am so excited about your story, Pamela. I am just moved by the energy of what you bring to people, and I can't wait for you to explain how you started talking to Alan, your husband, on the other side, and how he is, and not only an angel, but an archangel, and how he is bringing healing to people. So I would love it if you would just begin there.
All right. Well, Alan was a psychic medium when he was here in a body, and did that for over 35 years. And we met 30 years ago, got married. And when he passed, we had never discussed him coming back, like coming through to me, but he started to come through. And what astonished me was it wasn't only that he was making himself known to me, but other people, and including people in my group, students of mine, friends of mine. And the message he came back with was that we had a soul contract to continue our relationship and to eventually teach other people how to do the same thing. He talked a lot to me about how we're writing the manual for how to do this because not too many people are doing that. I think that's maybe not true. We're just not hearing about it because it's something rather controversial, to say the least. It's not something people are going to go on Instagram and say, hey, I'm talking to my dead husband, to a wide audience. So, but he said that we had agreed to do this because of the soul contract and that we weren't done. So he started by simply opening me up emotionally because I was shut down. And he says quite often that a lot of people are dead to their emotions. And I certainly was, because I had to be, because Alan had dementia the last 2 years of his life. So, I really had to be in survival mode just to cope. And we all know that that's sometimes necessary. It's not a bad thing. But when he passed, he came back and said, okay, you have to come alive. Like, if you're not alive, I can't talk to you. I can't be with you because they're more alive over there than we are here. So we have to raise our vibration. And he knew that he had to, help me open up and heal that, clear that. I had to let go of resentment that I carried toward him because by his own admission, he wasn't a perfect husband. Nobody's perfect. When you're in a body, you can't be perfect. So he did his best to let me vent, let me, express it. And he was always loving and patient, which, by the way, that really surprised me because he wasn't like that when he was in a body. He was very impatient, at the most impatient person I knew practically. And now he was just different. And the love he brought to me just blew my mind. It was like nothing I'd ever felt before. And it kept getting stronger. And he says it's going to keep getting stronger because I'm opening up more. And the more I do that, the more I can feel. So he's taught me that, we all can do what he and I are doing, but what's necessary is that we have to meet them halfway. We have to, first of all, believe, which is, I think, the hardest part for even those of us who are, spiritual, or those of us who are even psychics, because I told other friends of mine who are psychics, and some of them didn't quite understand it. Some of them totally got it. It really depended. So we all tend to doubt, and especially when it's somebody we love so much, we think, well, I'm making it up because I want him so badly to be here. But he proved to me every time I doubted, he would prove to me that he was here. And one time that sticks in my mind was on my birthday, which was only about 13 days after he passed. And of course, I was grieving. And there's a long story that goes with that, but I won't share. He actually bought me a present through a friend. And it was hilarious how he did that. But most of all, I remember he came through with his love that day, and I felt it. It was so strong and palpable. He made sure that I felt his love. So of course, I thought, well, great, tonight when I go to sleep, I'm really going to feel it, right? Like, I'm really going to feel him. He's really going to hug me or whatever, or maybe he's going to appear to me or something, because it's my birthday. So I had all this expectation. And that night when I was laying in bed, because I had felt him before, well, I felt nothing, like nothing. And I was so upset. I was like, what happened? Where are you? And I was crying. I was upset and angry. And I said, I can't, I'm just making this up. This is crazy. Where are you? It's my birthday. Come on. And I went to sleep. And the next morning when I woke up, I heard him say really softly, I'm here and I'll never do that to you again. But I needed to do that to you so that you would know that you can't make me up. Because didn't you try? And I said, yeah, I did. I tried to conjure him up because, I really wanted him to be there. It's my birthday. So I said, okay, I'm gonna imagine him. I'm gonna feel him. I'm just gonna make this happen because I really wanted him to be there. And I said, I did. I tried and I tried. And he said, and you couldn't, could you? I go, no. He goes, well, what does that tell you? You can't make this happen. I'm either here or I'm not here. And by the way, I am never, ever going to do that to you again. I just wanted you to understand this so that you would never question my feeling or my presence or whatever you're experiencing, because I'm in control of it, not you. I mean, I am in control of it in the sense that I have to be open to it, but I can't make him come in. So that just left an impression. I said, all right, I'm in, like, I get it. You're real. You're proving to me. Now, that doesn't mean that from then on, I totally believed, because, it's hard. You live in the physical world. We're up against the conditioning, the collective programming that you can't believe what you can't see. And you're still hitting up against that. That's just inevitable. So he continued to give evidence, like, step by step. But in his case, the way he really made himself known to me was he told me to create a Facebook group and to share our story, to share what was happening to me, to share what he was telling me, messages that he had for me and for the world. And he said, just chronicle it there. I want you to just let everybody know. And this is how you're going to, reach out to people. You're going to teach people, you're going to help people. And people will know it's real because you can't really make this up. You're writing every day. So it was kind of like a blog, but in Alan's case, he wanted people to interact with him. He didn't want to be on a, on a website, on a page, and people just post a comment and then they go, they never come back again. He wanted to build a community. And ironically, about 10 years ago, I really felt drawn to create a community. But back then online, there wasn't that many options. It was kind of hard to do. And I couldn't figure out how to do that. So when he told me that about creating a community, I said, okay, I'm all in. Like, I'm just going to share like everything, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs, my doubts, my anger at him. Like I shared everything. And so people in the group were telling me that they knew it was real because I was being so vulnerable. And I said, well, I don't know how else to do this because this is so out there. Like I could make it all pretty for people and make it sound like, I'm some enlightened being and I'm just soaring through this like easily. But he said, I got to keep it real. It's not easy, but it's also the most extraordinary thing that I've ever experienced. And the depth of love that I now feel because I'm open to it and he brings it to me every day is, again, unlike anything. I can't even describe it. It's like, I really believe that you don't know what love is until somebody loves you completely unconditionally and you love yourself unconditionally and you love somebody else, hopefully them, but could be anybody else, somebody else unconditionally. Because he's told me that we need those three things: the love of ourselves, another, and their love or somebody else's love to be complete.
I have a quick question for you. I love what he said about over there, people felt more alive than in life. And that was exactly how I felt during my near-death experience. My first thought was, oh, I feel so much clearer. My consciousness is just so much more elevated outside the body. And I really believe when Evan Alexander talks about consciousness, the brain is a filter for it, that consciousness is so much more. So maybe part of what you're going through is that you are really connecting with something much greater than what you're used to. And so that's the shift. I mean, it's
it is. He told me that in the very beginning, he says, well, every night when you sleep, I'm with you and I'm taking you to heaven with me. So you're going to get accustomed to the energy. I'm bringing heaven to you and I'm surrounding you with that. He said, because, and he said early on, I'm an archangel. And I said, what? That's crazy. People can't be archangels. But then my good friend, Swati, who's also a good friend of Alan's, and she sees him. She can talk to him. She sees him. He hangs out with her. And she said, yeah, that's right. You are an archangel too, Pam. And so is Alan. And other people are also. And really, it's a job description. It's not some higher being, elevated above all the other angels and everyone else, because on the other side, there's no hierarchy. There's only groupings according to interests and abilities and goals. It's not like these people are above those people and, this is a special group. And it's all, he says, it's all constant, it's all choice. And an archangel basically wants to serve others and help them embody their soul, help them to heal. He says, heal and embody their soul. So I just went along with it. I said, okay, because he was doing things that I could not explain, that he was appearing to students, appearing to clients. We started doing readings together. And one of the first things he told our first clients was, oh yeah, you can call on me after the reading and I'll continue to work on you. This is the reading that never ends. This is the coaching that never ends. So you just have to call on me. So I said that, right? Because I'm talking for him and I'm saying that and they go, really? You could do that? Like, I was like really nervous, like, okay, can he really do that? He's saying these things. And I just had to say it. This is what he said. But the feedback I got was people said, yeah, I called on Alan. He told me to test him. He told me, this, that, I called on him and he showed up, or he started coaching me on how to do my website better. I mean, all kinds of things. One person recently said, "Oh, Alan gave me a great marketing plan." I said, "Okay." He was in business for many years before I met him, very successful and running several businesses, and was very wealthy after a very impoverished childhood and growing up during World War II. So I wasn't surprised he knew that, but he knew nothing about online marketing. This was a guy who couldn't even find his way around Facebook. And he'd complain to me and say, "I'm really confused. Like, what is this Facebook thing?" Now he knows his way around the computer like nobody else, certainly not me. But it just blew my mind when he said, "All right, I'm an archangel," and it's okay. And they said to these clients who said, "Please call on me for help for anything, because the more people who call on me for help, the stronger I'll get, and the more people I can help, and I'm here to help. But by the way, Pam and I are really one because we're twin souls, and so I had to be here in a body while he remained on the other side, so that I could anchor his energy, his healing, his telling me, his light, even his being, I don't know, here, so that it could be more accessible, for the world." And that was the sacrifice we agreed to make, that we would be parted. So question about that?
Yes. Well, actually, there's a great question on YouTube, and I usually wait till the end, but it's so good that Sean pointed it out as well. But a lot of people have grown up in environments where there wasn't a lot of unconditional love. We near-death experiencers are really lucky to have had a glimpse of it, and it changes everything. But for people who really haven't experienced a lot of that, and maybe even they've experienced a lot of abuse, how do you work on that whole, or what does Alan say to help people?
How do you
feel?
Lately he's told me that, and based on my experience too, I can confirm this, that it's really hard to find unconditional love in the physical world, because most people just don't have that. They're all learning that. When you're on the other side, you return to being unconditional love. But here in a body, it's really difficult. So how do you love yourself unconditionally if nobody has loved you that way? How do you generate that? And I believe, based on what I've experienced with him, that it can be through the loved ones we have on the other side, because their love is perfect and they're still alive. They're not like gone. We all know, those of us, right, in this community, that they're just, like Sean says, in the next room. Or I like to say, okay, he's right here. Like Alan stands right here. If anybody's clairvoyant, he's literally right here. And my friends will say, "Oh yeah, I see him hugging you. I see him kissing your cheek or looking at you goofy with lovingly." But they're not far at all. I don't want to say they're far. They're right here. So you can call on them, and most of the time they'll come. Of course, it's a choice, but most of the time they'll come, and their love is now perfect. So we can open up to that. So I don't think anybody really has a reason to worry about experiencing unconditional love if they open up to the idea that they can connect to their loved ones on the other side, which I don't really believe is that hard to do. I'm saying, especially because he's helping loved ones on the other side come through to us, because he told me that in the early days. And once again, I said, "What? Are you crazy? What? You can do what? You can help them on the other side?" He goes, "Yes, I'm going to teach classes on that, Pam." And I just laughed. I said, "This is crazy." Then he had me read some books written by other mediums. And sure enough, I read this one book, and the psychic medium says, "Oh, by the way, there's souls on the other side who hold classes to teach souls there how to communicate with us here, because they don't all have the ability to project themselves, in a strong way." So Alan said, I heard him go, "Yeah, see, I told you. That's what I'm doing. I told you that from the beginning." All right.
I get that, because as a medium, there are some people who come through really clear.
Right.
And I'm telling, the person about them, and I knew that they were spiritual in life. They had a little training in how to cross the veil, and they still can come through even without that knowing.
Right.
some of them
Right.
do need a little help, like they're not quite sure what to say, or they're even shocked, like, oh, I'm here, what do I say? Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh,
And so one thing that hit me as you were talking is that idea of they're different on the other side for sure. And I don't know if you've had a
yes.
moment like this, but like with my father on the other side, I had this moment where he told me to do something, and I just reacted to him like his physical self. I'm like, my dad's not telling me what to do. Forget that. And then everything just like fell apart, and I should have done what he said. And I was like, oh, it's his elevated self talking to me. Have you
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
moments of
Sometimes,
adjusting to
yeah.
the new
Sometimes you don't recognize them because they're different like that. And we know, as you know, as a medium, like they can appear whatever way they want to appear. And usually they'll appear younger because who wants to look like they're 80? I mean, not most people. So they want to look like you're 30 or 40 or whatever. But yeah, they're different, but not dramatically, because otherwise then we wouldn't recognize them, their personality, and they do retain their personality. So Alan retained his sense of humor because he was always a larger than life guy who was once in a band. He grew up in is the Beatle generation. He could have been a Beatle practically. He was in a rock and roll band, and he left that to go into business. But he wanted to be, I think, on stage. He loved American movies, like a lot of British people now and then, and was always going to movies. So he wanted to be out there, and yet he was shy, and yet he was very psychic as a medium. But so now he's people tell me, God, he's really funny, and I go, yep. This should come with a disclaimer. If you contact this guy, he's going to make you laugh, and if you don't want that, like, don't call on him. He's very caring, and he'll help you, but he'll have a sense of humor, and because he says that in the higher realms they actually are very funny. Like he says, all the archangels are just hanging out, like cracking jokes. And I remember when he was here, and we had a strong connection with Archangel Michael, not a lot of people. And Michael would come through, and he'd always be teasing Alan, and Alan would tease Michael, and I'd go, "You guys are just silly." And he said, "Well, that's how we are up here, because we take life lightly, and we're having fun, and that's the energy of the higher realms, is that there's a lot of laughter and light, and of course love." Any question?
I'm so glad that the afterlife is a party. I mean, that's what I want it to be.
Well, it's also, there's everything there, right? It's not just like a party, because it's diverse. I know. And the other thing that was surprising, he told me, was that at the higher realms, that they actually feel emotion very deeply, and more deeply than we do. They have the wide gamut of emotion. Of course, they're not done in by it, but they feel like deeply, and they want to, and they feel that we need to understand that our emotions are so important to come alive, and rather than be afraid of it. So one of the things he had me do was listen to this music that he gave me, and some of it would make me cry, some of it would make me laugh, but I'd go through all this range of emotion, because he said you need to feel deeply, you need to really experience everything and not be afraid, and let yourself move through all the emotion, from the tears to the joy, and know that you're not going to get stuck. It's about just letting life flow through you, and knowing that it's all perfect. And there were times when I cried, and I wasn't upset that I was crying. I was just crying and feeling like so grateful that I could cry, that I felt alive just by crying, instead of being shut down and feeling dead. So I was grateful for feeling the tears and having that experience.
Well, I am going to let Sean ask some questions each hour, but he knows you, so I'm going to let him ask a few.
Okay, all right.
And for those who don't know Sean, he is the host of Hawaiian Ions, and he's also a near-death experiencer, fairly recent, but he knows Pam, so I'm going to switch you guys over.
Thanks for the warning.
Thank you. Okay, so Al Faced asked in the chat, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but so Pam, as you guys may or may not know, she had a relatively clean house, she wasn't necessarily, so you weren't really, you didn't have as much dysfunction as some of us might. And
Right.
so she asked, what if you grow up in an environment where love was conditional, even abusive? How do you know unconditional love when you have a hole in your heart that seems perpetually incomplete? And as you know, I think that's really important because most of us have come from dysfunctional
Yes.
houses and families where there is not love. And for myself, I didn't know unconditional love until I had an NDE, and from my mom, who had passed on, as you know. So what would you say to Alface and other people who really they're struggling because they're in pain? So how are they gonna get in touch with loved ones and be able to hear them? What can they do? If they're not already in that unconditional love frame of mind.
Yeah, I understand it's not easy if you haven't been shown that. And really, even if somebody's been in a quote functional home, they're not necessarily given unconditional love because most parents themselves don't have that. It's just what it is. But I really feel, well, now Ellen's telling me the other side is here to help with that because they're not gone. They're not dead. So I would say I would connect with someone on the other side. And it doesn't, I want he's reminding me that it doesn't even have to be a loved one that you knew well. Like I recently, after Alan passed, I had my grandfather come to me, who I never knew. And he'd come to me, I had this deep experience with him, and his love was so amazing. And he told me how proud he was of me. And he was very handsome, showing himself young. And I've seen pictures of him. He was very handsome, Japanese. He died in his 40s. He had cancer. But he came through to just tell me he's always been watching me and he's so proud of me and he wanted to give me his love. So if I had that experience and I didn't have love in my life where I had been abused, I would choose to foster that connection and let him into my life and let him at least love me, maybe even guide me, because some of them are able to guide us. That's the thing. Alan says that actually many loved ones in heaven are already guiding us. We just sometimes don't know it. And they're also helping behind the scenes. They're actually many times responsible for miracles big and small that happen, that quite often people will give credit to the angels when it could be a loved one that actually set up something to your benefit. And it's okay because they don't care. They're not trying to get credit. So I would say open to that and feel
so
that.
How would somebody open themselves to the love
to their loved one on their side? It can be through meditation. It can be through just, and if somebody's like Alan, he couldn't meditate, but at least relaxing. Or okay, well, he's showing me now, like walking on the beach, if you have a beach or in nature, whichever, in nature, because when you're in nature, you're really more connected to source.
Yes.
To source energy, because it's all around you, and usually they're not throngs of people, crowding in on you like at a shopping mall or something. So you're connecting in nature, and they can come in. So I would invite them in with you to go on your walk or to spend time in nature and just be present, because that's part of the thing too. You have to be like here and stop that mental chatter. And most of all, he's saying trust. And also, by the way, he's saying ask him to help you. He has actually helped people meditate who couldn't learn how to meditate. One of our clients, in a session, she said to us, yes, I actually called on the two of you because I have always had trouble meditating, could never do it, tried so many times. So I thought, well, I'm going to ask Pam and Alan to help me meditate. And she immediately felt us come in, and she went into this state and she realized, oh, this is what it is. And then she stayed that way for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was. And she said, oh, great, now I know how to meditate. So he says, you have no excuse for not meditating and calming your mind, which really expands your mind and expands your consciousness, as we know, which it will help you reach them. But he's also saying, get into your emotions, because they're pure emotion. They're pure emotion. And like I said, most people are shut down. So there's not, like he says, there's not a one size fits all way to do this, but those are the things that can help. Meditation, getting into nature, just inviting them in, asking, trust. He said that's the hardest part for people, because they'll have an experience and go, was that real? But as soon as you do that, you're disowning it. And instead, if you could say, I don't know what just happened, but I do know something happened. I'm just going to, sit with that, and I'm not going to reject it, because as soon as you go, I don't get it. Well, that's like, I don't get it.
Yes, go with your initial reaction. If your initial thing, go with that, because your ego will then come in and try to talk you out of it after.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Your ego will say, you're making it up.
Right.
Alan's shown me that I couldn't make up him talking to me, because I would think, like, because I'd hear him chattering in my head, and I'd say, am I just making that up? And he said, look, stop, try and talk to yourself. I mean, really, try and duplicate the conversations that we've been having. Go try. So I go, okay. There, it's kind of hard. I don't know what to say. Like, what am I going to say to him? Like, I don't know. He says, yeah, you don't have the flow of the conversation. When I'm talking to you, you don't know where the conversation is going. It's just coming. Like when you talk to anybody, you don't know where the conversation. It's just word after word. So, okay. So he's also saying to me, in the beginning, telepathic conversation was difficult, and it could be different for other people, but for me it was difficult. So he said, I want you to write it down, because you're using different parts of your brain when you write it down. And then when you write it, it's also flowing in a different way. And so for me, he had me write, and I could feel him come in. I could feel him merge with me, and it was subtle. I'm not saying you're going to feel your loved one and go, whoa, some of you will, some of you won't, some of you feel nothing.
And if you just let yourself, so if you're not sure, assume it's real, and then you open yourself up to more of it, right?
And then you open yourself to proving that it's real. But he says you got to start with being willing to be wrong. Yeah. Like with anything. Do we learn anything?
With the assumption it's real and it's going to happen.
Right. And don't be upset that you don't get it perfect, because do any of us get something perfect right out the gate when we're learning it? You can't. But if you don't get over your need to get it perfect in the beginning, you're never going to get good. And anyway, this cannot be perfect, because remember, as long as we're in a body, nothing's perfect. That's impossible on the earth plane. So we just have to accept that and move on and go, it can be good enough. And good enough is, he's saying, can be extraordinary. So be okay with that. And he's serious about asking people to call on him for help to connect with your loved one. Because like I said, this guy is helping your loved one on the other side come through to you. So if you're on his radar, like you call on him, please help me connect with my grandmother, whatever. He knows who your grandmother is. He can see, like, he's telling me a trail of breadcrumbs to your grandmother, whatever. So he'll go and help your grandmother, and he's going to help you. And it's just, then you're on the journey. So just trust it and just see where it goes and be light about it. Don't be, lay heavy expectation on yourself or them. This should be a joyous experience. And he can even help you with your doubts. He's really good at that. So what do you have to lose? He wants people to call on him. This is like free. Like, he wants everybody to call on him. And people have called on him from the other side of the world when a woman called on him and he showed up. So.
And you also teach people, by the way, how to.
Yeah, we're actually going to, because so many people have asked us to help them connect with their loved ones. I give little hints and things and tips in our Facebook group, Supernatural Love and Life After Death. But of course, people want a real course. I'm actually waiting for, well, Trisha knows, she's on Kajabi at their website. Well, Kajabi is getting ready to launch a coaching option for people like she and I, who use Kajabi. And so when I get that going, I'm going to do coaching on that. And the people who'll be invited to that were people in my group. So I already have people who have asked us. Right now, if somebody wanted to do this, they'd have to book private one-on-one, and we can mentor them. And we have done a little bit of that with people, but we want to reach more people. So that's coming.
But would you say, for all the people that are watching, they can all be their own medium?
Oh, yeah.
Agree with me?
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sure Trisha would agree, but they got to just trust and believe and not be doubting, because the doubt, as both of you know, just shuts everything down, just turns off your connection. So I was able to, fear. Yeah, you got to deal with your fears about the other side. And unfortunately, in our society, the media has done a really good job at making the other side seem really dark and spooky and strange and all that, but it isn't, unless you believe that, and then you bring that to you. But yeah, everyone's a medium. Absolutely.
So this may be putting you on the spot, but there's someone in deep pain on the chat, and her name is Lorraine, and she is wanting to know, her son committed suicide, and he's it's fairly recent, and she really wants Alan to help her have a deeper connection with her son.
With her son.
Yeah.
He's saying to me that her son is still adjusting on the other side, but he's showing me she's surrounded by angels. So her son was actually, he's telling me, a very evolved being, and was here to teach compassion through whatever suffering he endured, as can happen with people. And that he is going to be in contact, and Alan is going to help him make contact. And it shouldn't be hard because of who her son is as a soul, because he is like higher. And I'm reluctant to say higher because it makes it seem like, oh, he's better. But we know that some souls they have been around longer, and they've worked on things longer, and really the more evolved you are, the less anybody cares about saying that they're evolved. Like, they don't even want to say that word. They just want to serve. Right. It's really the people who are not evolved to say, oh yeah, I'm evolved. But he's coming through that way. And he says he wants her to know, just to open up to him. And tonight you're going to start feeling something. Okay. You're going to feel a connection. You may not trust it, but he wants you to go with it and let us know how that goes. But he's going to work with both of you.
And it's interesting. She seems a little stuck, and I totally understand this, on the trauma of finding him, finding the body. And she wants to know if he was still there, or if his spirit had transitioned on.
He went like immediately. Like he just left immediately, transitioned on. Alan's saying that he was ready for this and planned it. I don't even just plan the suicide, but plan to exit at this time. He's saying he has work to do on the other side to help her and others. And that often can happen, that souls realize, I can be of more service on the other side, because here, like Alan, he left because he said, I can do what I need to do if I'm over there. And recently he also told me, I'm also over there to help me deal with all the things that are happening in this world, including COVID and including financial thing, right? Including disasters. And he says he knew that he couldn't help me if he was in a body. So something similar with her son. He's going to help her. He's going to guide her from the other side. So I'm so sorry that you had to go through finding his body and all that. I know that leaves an impression, but Alan and your son are going to help clear that, and so that it's lighter, so that you can, I know we can do that, but you can kind of remember it, but not have the charge on it. It's just right now so intense because it's recent, and something like that is going to leave a lasting impression. So, but that's coming. So please, and he's now showing me the sun, and I'm saying it's going to get better. Please trust and allow them to help you. They're both going to help. He's going to help your son come through. He's going to help you also to make the connection. And I see that he's showing me the bridge I call it the bridge between heaven and earth, and he's showing me meaning on that bridge.
Beautiful. Yeah, I feel that as you say that. Does Alan often work with trauma like that, or people who are very traumatized about the loss of someone?
He hasn't yet. Okay, now he's telling me to my knowledge, because people call on him and I don't necessarily know what transpired, because I have clients and people in my group who will ask Alan to help somebody and he'll go right there. We recently had a good friend daughter. The daughter asked Alan if he could help her friend, 14-year-old friend, who was suicidal and was going through a rough time. And so Alan immediately went to this girl who can see spirit, by the way. She sees dead people like they're physical. She sees all her dead pets in her house are there. And he immediately showed up, we found out later, because she told her friend, like, oh yeah, he was here, he was hanging out, and he would start playing video games with this girl. Okay, this is what cracked me up. Like, what? You're playing video games? And she goes, she was having fun. He was playing video games. And this is what really astonished me. The girl said to her friend, yeah, this Alan, I like Alan. He's really cool. We had a great time. And when he first connected with me, he called me on my BS. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, like, you did what? Like, you called her on her shit? Like, oh my God. But the girl said, no, that was cool. She needed that. Like, she appreciated that he talked to her straight, that he told her the truth. And so, in her view, it's like, okay, great. Like, she didn't want sugarcoating. And he knew that. So he has helped people like her. And he's still with her, by the way. And she says she's happy to have him there. So he's guiding her, he's coaching her. See, like, who can do that who's in a body? Like, be with like hundreds or thousands of people at the same time and say, hey, I'm your crystal coach. I'm right here. I got your back. I'll help you. I'll do whatever I can to support you. But that's the kind of evidence I'm getting, feedback from other people, that I can't deny. So.
And I read the question wrong on YouTube. I think it wasn't suicide; it was a drug overdose. So he
kind of same thing. Well, don't you think that all death is suicide because we choose it? It's just like, well, how did we choose to exit? It's just that. So and a lot. Okay, he's telling me a lot of times he's reminding me of somebody we read recently who asked us because their friend had disappeared. And I immediately knew, like, okay, did he do drugs? Because I see drugs and alcohol, and he's gone. And I shocked myself because it came so clearly, and I was like, oh my God, did I get that right? Because I don't see myself as a medium. And I said, he's gone, but he was an evolved soul. I said, he came here to be a drug addict, and I'm not saying this is the case for this person, but to teach compassion, to teach his family and others. But my friend recognized that her friend was actually very special. So that's what she didn't understand. Why is he struggling with drug addiction when he's so special? And I can see that. And I said, it's because he's so special in his case that he's dealing with this to teach others compassion and understanding and forgiveness and expand their awareness of what, life is. And she could see that. And later the next day, she got hold of me and she said, I did get confirmation that he did, kill himself, and it was drugs. And yes, he was drinking. So, because I'd seen him like this drinking and I'd seen the pills. But I also see it when I saw him, I immediately saw him on the other side with Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael. And Michael told me he's an evolved like soul, maybe even ascended master. And so they were walking him home. So he was fine. So in this person's case, Alan's saying it's similar, very similar. So not identical, but similar. Not always going to be the case with everyone who's dies by drug overdose or something, but in this person's case, it's always going to be different, right?
It's interesting because in medium readings, and sometimes people are surprised by this, but people who die from drug overdoses or alcoholism, sometimes their soul is so ready to fly free.
Yeah.
They're just so glad to be done with that body, and they adjust really quickly to the freedom of the other side. And it's interesting to watch.
See, isn't that strange? Like, why would say, and again, everyone's different, but yeah, some of them, that was your assignment. So Alan always said, that some of the people who are homeless are highly evolved beings who just took on a tough assignment to, again, teach compassion and acceptance. And so don't like look down on them at all. They're not unworthy, and they're not broken. They're here doing their mission, or they're helping the people around them that are also homeless. They're served. That's their ministry. So we don't know what's going on. We should never assume anything, that somebody is lesser or higher than us. There is no such thing.
So someone has. Oh yes, I'm just getting excited about some of these questions.
Okay.
Someone says that archangels have big missions. Do you believe this is true? Like, to stop wars sometimes, or to stop the destruction of the planet, or to at least move humanity in a different directions. Does Alan tell you about archangel missions and
missions? He says, how do you put it? Not really about in terms of global effect. He hasn't really talked about that. Now, I must say that what we're focusing on right now is just he's been helping me open up to him. So really, because it's only been 11 months since he passed. So that's been the priority, like helping me with my connection to him, helping me really heal, helping me hear him clearly and all that. And later he says he has more to say about subjects like that, but he's not going there quite yet. But he has said to me that to keep in mind that all the archangels actually can do the same thing. They're not really locked into specific specializations, okay? Because they only did that because so we could identify like which archangel should I call on for healing as opposed to spiritual protection, etc. But really, they can do it all because they just can't. So they can fill in for each other. They can do all those things. And he also wants to say, remind us again, that many people here now are archangels and feel called to help people embody their souls. So, that may be people watching. He says, yeah, there are people watching. And because we're everything, we're actually everything, including elementals, including nature, right? We're a rock, we're a tree, we're a part of everything because we're God. And for some of us, we chose to incarnate and serve humanity as an archangel. And there are a lot, he says there are thousands, maybe millions of people who are doing their spiritual work quietly that we will never hear about. They're just serving, they're just working. They don't want to be acknowledged. They're just doing the work, as he says. And not to think that the people who are like me or others, I'm not putting down me or anybody else, okay, but saying that those of us, not saying those of us like on the stage, so to speak, are really better than anybody. We signed up for that. And all the challenges that go with that, because I'm sure as many of your presenters know, that this is not an easy role to play or a path to walk. It's fraught with challenges at times. It's it is what it is. But there are lots of, he's saying there are legions of angels in bodies, and he doesn't care what other teachers who are talking about angels are saying. He says, he's told me right away, he said, remember, everybody is filtering their experience through their consciousness. Nobody's gonna really have the true picture until they're on the other side. So when you're here, and it's fine, it's perfect. So let everybody have their own version of what an angel is or isn't, or what an archangel can do or can't do, and don't worry about it, and just go with what resonates as your truth. And know that, it's just, nobody can be the ultimate authority. The ultimate authority is each of us. And that's all that matters. So, when he told me that, I said, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's who can. If somebody was the true oracle, then we'd all be off worshiping that person, right? Like, well, this person, let's say it was Sean, like Sean knows everything. I'll just bow to him and I'll just do what he tells me to do, which people tend to want to do because humanity has been programmed to seek out gurus and hand over their power. So, but spiritual teachers who truly embodying their soul and know that that's not the way, that everyone's got to be their own guru. And this is not about having people like follow us. I've had lifetimes where I had that. And I'll tell you that lifetime was the worst one I ever had. Like when I was like a guru, when I was like up on a platform or worship or whatever, it is not what you guys think. I would rather be homeless. It was bondage in a way that you would not believe, except that you're eating off a gold plate. But that's the only thing that's different. So, we have to kind of understand what we're dealing with here as spiritual teachers and practitioners.
And we are really coming into the time when everybody is and needs to be their own guru, like you say.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't have one or a teacher, of course, not at all, but that the best teacher, I hope you guys agree, that the highest teachers will say, you need to trust yourself. Like, don't give me your power. Like, I don't want it, because it's going to be limiting to me. Like, I had to learn that in this other lifetime, where everybody gave me their power.
And we're all teachers and students to each other.
Yes.
And so, we're all patient and therapists to each other.
Right.
So and we're all gurus, and we're all students, and we're all helping each other. Some are just know a little bit more, or remember a little bit more.
Yeah.
Than others.
Right. And that's all. They're not better than us. They're not, they're just on a different timeline, and we're all going to get there, because you can't fail and because you can't die. So
yeah, that's what you and Trisha do, and other people. You're amazing teachers in helping everybody learn to be their own guru and their own medium, whatever word you want to use.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at right now. I was talking to another medium friend of mine, and she said, do you think people are really so much into readings anymore? And I said, well, yeah, they always will be. But she said, we both said to each other, yeah, I think people want to do it for themselves now. They've gone that route, they've had readings, and they go, what's the next step? The next step would be for you to be the medium, or for you to get your own answers. I mean, that just makes sense, doesn't it? Like, that's the chronological order. Like, first I experienced this, and they go, I'm saying, as souls, we're always going, what's next? Like, what's next? What else am I going to learn? What else am I going to do? You never go, okay, I learned that, I'm done. Let's just like go to sleep on the big bed in the sky. Like, no, I still want to be in the game. I still want to ride the ride. I still want to see what else can I do, learn, be, or know. And so, like, what next? So I think if somebody's feeling called to be their own medium, or reach out to their side, then they're ready for that next step.
And I loved what you said earlier about your own connection can be healing. And I see so many times that people on the other side are sending actual love, the energy of love, maybe even to make up for a relationship that wasn't that great, or to, like, there many times it is like exactly the wound they want to heal. And I even heard one abusive parent, a father, say to his son, would you please just rip the memory of me out of you and just live your life and just enjoy everything about your life, like, love it. If you have to rip me out, then do it.
Absolutely, that's beautiful. I love that. Ellen really loves that. They just want us to be happy. Really, they really want us to be happy, and they will do anything in their power to help that. They really can assist us, and they do without us even realizing it. So I'd say if anybody wants to learn how to connect, join our group, because the whole group is marinated in unconditional love, and it's a great group, and you'll pick it up by osmosis. And anyway, if you're in the group, Alan's going to have you on his radar. And again, here's a disclaimer: please do not blame me if this guy shows up and starts to heal you, change your life, and make you laugh.
By the way, with what you said, Trisha, about ripping, that was just so amazing. But what about us forgiving them?
Yeah.
Can you speak about that? Like, can they tell if we're holding grudges?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think I don't push anyone to get to forgiveness, but there is something about the other side. Like when people have transitioned, it's a lot easier to forgive for some reason. Maybe it's that energy assistance, or maybe that energy of butting heads is gone, and it's that unconditional love replacing some of what was not unconditional love here, what was part of the physical experience. So yeah, if we could get to forgiveness before death, I think that's
Yeah.
monumental.
I think you have to forgive them if you want to connect with them. I had to forgive Alan, but he says when he got to the other side, because they see the bigger picture, because they go through their life review and they realize, oh my God, that's why that happened, or that's why she or he did that to me. And so it's easier for them to let it go and say, all right, I get it. This is what I need to learn. And this is why they did that. And I didn't understand at the time. So they are pretty much readily able to forgive us for the most part. And they still are worried that their loved one here has not forgiven them. So they can still be upset about that. I had somebody in our group that, I don't remember if it was her father, grandfather, but somebody passed and he tried to come through because he wanted her forgiveness. And she was like, why is he coming through? She didn't like it. Like, wait a minute, why is he coming through? And he really wanted to apologize before he left. And he gave her this physical experience that was very disconcerting to her, and she didn't understand it, freaked her out. And I realized, I told her, because he really just wanted to make amends before he exited, even though, of course, they can do that on their side. But he was still here. So he said, I'm going to try to do it now. And she was like, oh my God, oh my God. Okay, that's what because he had mistreated her badly. So they do want to get it right. That's why Alan came back. He says, I got to make it right. I let Pam down. She didn't know that I loved her. I didn't really demonstrate it. And he knew that I believed that I would never really know what love was. And it broke his heart. He said he was devastated. He said, she was the love of my life. She's my twin soul. And I was an idiot, trapped in my fears and my insecurities. And I held back because I wanted to protect myself, and I lost the opportunity to be truly happy. And we had it good, but we could have had it so much better. So he said, I'm coming back because we have a soul contract, and I'm also going to make it all up to her because I want to make these remaining years the best years of her life. And
one last question really quick, because this all three of us have talked about separately, but it's so cool. And so Diana asked, how do we connect with loved ones who have passed that have already reincarnated? And I think we've all talked about this before, but what do you guys think?
Well, how do you know they've already reincarnated? Well, I'll tell you my perspective. Then
let's assume
let's assume they did. Okay, I mean, because my understanding is most of the time souls wait to reincarnate together as a group. Now that said, he says if they decide, okay, I got to come back fast for some other reason, remember we're multidimensional. So while I'm here in a body, there's a me that's on the other side. And there's a me that's on another planet. And there's a me that, whatever it is. So I can be anywhere and everywhere. Because this was something that Alan questioned too. Like, how do you know when you're doing mediumship that they're really there, or you're just being psychic and reading them and coming through it that way? He'd ask psychic teacher, like mediumship teachers, and nobody would really answer his question. So he's saying now, he says, yeah, because you're multidimensional. So you can always talk to the person. If they're in a body and they're not happy with you, they don't want to talk to you, like whatever, you got an issue, you can still talk to them because the soul that they are, the conscious that they are, still accessible. That's the real them, isn't it? The personality is the mask. So you can still talk to them. Why do you think you couldn't talk to them if they reincarnated? You can still talk to them. It's you that's not going to believe that you're talking to them. They're always accessible because consciousness is everywhere.
This kind of hits home, this question, because my father's on the other side and he wants to reincarnate. And so I know this is one of those moments that sounds kind of just nutty and out there, but he's like, okay, I am. And there's this beautiful full moon, and he went he was like, I've got a good mom and this is a good family. And he was, like going, and she had a miscarriage. And he's like, I'm back. And I was like, oh, Dad, this is really getting confusing. Like, do I have to know this? Like, I was kind of mourning, like, am I fully going to have my connection with him if he reincarnates? And he was like, you will to a degree, like, and trying to explain that multidimensional part, but I didn't like it, like.
Oh, that is so funny. I mean, I recently heard of a mother who lost her 2-year-old daughter tragically, and the daughter came back and started to guide the mother. This is the 2-year-old, because we're just consciousness. So it doesn't matter if you're 2 or 1 or 5 months, you're still consciousness. So, I guess it makes sense that consciousness, that mind of that baby could talk to the mother and say, hi, I'm here, I'm going to guide you. And that baby is guiding the mother. So things like that, I was saying things like this are happening all over the world, but people are not going to talk about it because they go, this is too weird. I can't say that my 2-year-old is guiding me. My friends are going to lock me up. Like, I can't share this. So he says, when our book comes out, we're going to hear from all these people, and that's going to be the second book.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So you're writing a book about, what is it called?
Yes, Supernatural Love, a true story of life and love after death. And we're due to be published in the spring of next year.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your joy and your experience and really your knowing. It's been lovely. It's been a beautiful chat.
Thanks for having us, Trisha. I almost said thanks. Too, of course.
Yeah. And then you have a live on Sunday, don't you, as well on Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook Live in our group. Got to be in our group to be in it. And Sean's going to be with me because we did an event on Zoom it was a week ago, right, Sean? And we're going to take some questions about the subject, which is heaven help us, like how the other side can help
people
us.
Can just message you through your Facebook page, and then they can join.
Yeah, well, there's also a link to my group on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
So they can get there.
It's not searchable, I think, because it's private.
Yeah, it is private, but they can message me or they can look on my page. There's a link. Yeah, there is a link on my page because I'm all about the group. So you can just go on my page. But yeah, hope to see you there.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Stopping this recording, and we have a little bit of a transition.